Election day is almost here, and you might be sick of hearing about it already. But you know what they don't talk about enough on the news? How both of these candidates will impact contractors. So today we're going to compare Kamala Harris and Donald Trump when it comes to contractors and small businesses. We'll be covering 4 key issues: tariffs, immigration, taxes, and regulation. And if you're a contractor, stick around to see how each candidate could make or break your business. Let's start with tariffs. Tariffs on imports play a huge role in construction industry because so many building materials are shipped in from overseas. During Trump's first term, tariffs were a big part of his America First policy. He put up to 25% tax on some Chinese imports. When I went to Shanghai for Roofing Expo last year, I could feel it in every single conversation with the Chinese manufacturers. They all have been complaining about this 25 tax tariff. The goal of that policy was to jumpstart American manufacturing. But for contractors, it meant higher costs for things like steel, aluminum, lumber, and asphalt shingles. The tariffs also drove the price of oil, which increased transportation costs for building materials. During his 2024 run, Trump stayed true to that policy. He has proposed increasing tariffs by up to 20% on all imports and up to 60% on Chinese imports and up to 100% on countries that refuse to use the US dollar for trade. As before, Trump's goal is to protect American businesses from foreign competition. But for contractors, the cost impact could be significant. Trump's stance on tariffs could mean higher project budgets, making contracts more costly to win and execute. Let's compare that to Kamala Harris. She aligns with Biden's approach on tariffs, which has some overlap with Trump. The Biden administration has kept most of the Trump-era tariffs in place. In May 2024, they announced even more increases on Chinese imports. That being said, Harris is more flexible on this issue than Trump. She criticized his proposal for a 20% increase on all imports, calling it a $4,000 annual sales tax on Americans. Harris' administration would likely take a more targeted approach, keeping some tariffs on China and potentially raising them on clean energy products. If Harris wins, material costs would be more likely to stay the same or increase by a smaller margin from tariffs. Next up, immigration. This is a big one because the construction industry relies on both documented and undocumented immigrant labor. Trump's approach has been strict. He promises a massive increase in deportations using the National Guard and other federal resources. He has proposed reviving the Remain in Mexico program for asylum seekers. And he wants to reinstate the Title 42, which allows the government to expel immigrants due to the pandemic. At a campaign event, he hinted at reinstating the zero-tolerance policy, which separates families at the border to deter migration. Trump has also said he wants to revoke birthright citizenship for children born in the US if their parents are here illegally. For contractors, this policy could make it harder and more expensive to find workers. The biggest hit would be in the South, which relies on immigrants to help rebuild after major storms. Harris has a different view. She wants to create pathways to citizenship for immigrants already in the US, and especially for those brought over as children. For contractors, this could mean a more stable workforce with immigrants less likely to get deported. Kamala Harris also wants to make it easier to get work visas, which could help fill labor shortages. At the same time, she supports passing more border security measures. Under the Biden administration, border crossings have dropped off, which may have been contributed to labor shortages. Now let's talk taxes. In 2017, Trump cut the corporate tax rate to 21%. He also cut income taxes and increased the standard deduction for individuals. For contractors, the biggest change was a 20% deduction on business income for sole proprietorships, partnerships, S-corps, and LLCs. But all of those tax cuts are set to expire next year. If Trump wins, he plans to make them permanent and reduce the corporate tax even more. For contractors, keeping the deduction means lower taxes and potentially more take-home pay. However, economists disagree about how small businesses would be impacted by further cuts or raises to the corporate tax rate. Kamala Harris plans to increase the corporate tax rate to 28% and raise income taxes for the top 1%. She also wants to increase tax credits and extend Trump-era cuts for people making less than $400,000 a year. The most important part of Harris' plan for contractors is the small business tax deduction. She wants to increase it from $5,000 to $50,000 to help cover startup costs. It's worth saying both candidates' plans are expected to increase the national debt, which could cause inflation. We made it to the last policy section. Let's compare them on regulation. Trump has always supported deregulation as a way to lower costs and cut red tape for the businesses. In his first term, he rolled back regulations across many industries, including construction. For example, Trump's Labor Department loosened the independent contractor rule or the guidelines for classifying workers as W-2 or 1099. This benefited contractors on the 1099 model who can't take it on the costs that come with W-2 employees, like paying for health insurance. Under Biden, that rule has been changed back. As for Trump, he will likely continue his deregulation strategy if he wins. That could mean looser policies around labor and environmental protections that can increase the cost of doing business for contractors. Kamala Harris has a more hands-on approach. Instead of deregulation, she wants to expand grants and affordable loans for small businesses. Harris plans to make it easier to get a business license to operate across state lines. She has also proposed incentives for local governments to simplify licensing, zoning, and other red tape. These changes could benefit contractors in low-income or higher regulation states by making it easier to start a business. On the other hand, Harris would likely keep the strict independent contractor rule in place. She would also be more likely to support environmental and labor regulations that increase the cost of doing business for manufacturers and contractors. So we gave you the facts. There are major pros and cons to both candidates that contractors should consider. Trump's policies lean towards lower taxes, less regulations, tougher immigration enforcement, and higher tariffs on imports. Trump hasn't said whether he will change back to independent contractor rule, but it's a possibility that could help 1099 companies in a big way. On the other hand, Harris has a mixed approach. She wants to raise corporate taxes but lower them for small businesses. She wants to make it easier for immigrants to get work visas but increase border security. She wants to speed up the business licensing process but supports the independent contractor rule and environmental protections. Now it's up to you. Remember to vote this week and make your voice heard, no matter who you're supporting. Now, I'm just curious, what do you think about these topics? I would like to start some kind of debate. I'm trying to stay away from politics. I'm not gonna share in this video who I'm voting for, but I promise you I will vote. So will my entire family, because it's important. I came from the country where I strongly disagree with the government, but my vote over there does not count. You know, I cannot vote for the president, couldn't vote for the president because it's all corrupt. We didn't have a choice. We didn't have a freedom of speech we have in this country. I believe that the United States of America is the best country on the planet. The future is bright. I will accept either president. Over the years, you know, I didn't like few candidates, few presidents, but still obey. Whoever is gonna win will be my president. I will keep making the changes I can make. I keep doing what I can do in my industry, in my circles, in my city. All we can do is work hard and speak up when we have to. I think the most important thing is to believe that we do make the difference, to vote. Every time, you know, we make a video, we comment, we engage, you know, people hear us. Not only me, but people hear you. You know, I read all of my comments. So when you guys drop a comment, when you start a conversation, when you share feedback, when you vote, when you take a poll, it all matters. And I think this year, like never before, we're split. It's not clear who's gonna win. The race is very, very close. We all have our hopes. Do what you think is better for you, for your family, for your business. Do go and vote. But also, what do you think about the future of America? You know, I see a lot of comments where some people are very negative and very depressed, and they're like, oh, Dmitry, you don't know where we're heading. You know, you haven't been here 20 years ago. This is not a country, you know, we remember. You know, I see huge improvement. I also see a few declines, and there's a lot of things that I don't like on a lot of issues. Again, this is not a political channel. This is a business channel, and this is a channel for both contractors and homeowners. That's why we made this video, and that's why we do news every Sunday now. Comment below what you think. Don't forget to vote, and I'll see you guys in the next video.